Warmest of greetings from wherever that you're watching us on this beautiful Monday. My name is Bongani Mncube, and this is another episode of In Conversation. Well, today we're going to be talking to Prof Eduard Venter, who's going to tell us more about their groundbreaking innovation or invention that is going to revolutionize the brewing industry. Well, Prof, welcome to the show.
Good morning, Bongani. Thank you for hosting us and giving us the opportunity to talk a bit more about this.
Well, us as South Africans and Europe, of course, the brewing industry is an interesting space.
It
with
is.
Such an invention, we definitely had to have you on.
Yes.
Yes, Prof. Well, firstly, can we talk about what was the problem? Let's talk about the problem that you guys identified for this specific research before we get into it itself.
Yeah, so it was a while ago that the South African breweries contacted us, and the problem that they have is that barley is used for brewing beer, and from harvest to brewing, it can be, say, up to a year from during storage. And some of the cultivars that they have, what happens is they're prone to pre-germination or very early germination, and malting to convert starches to sugar for the brewing process ends up relying on that germination process. So if this process happens and then suddenly stops, they can't restart that, and so that batch of barley is lost to them. And this obviously comes with financial aspects, because they buy the barley and then they store the barley, and only later when they want to malt it, they realize there's a problem with it. And then the big problem is there's no second market for barley, because with maize, we produce a lot of maize that's used for animal feed and so forth. And so the barley that then feeds into that role is sold off at a very low price compared to what they already purchased it for. So for them, it's an economical downturn if the barley pre-germ. And so that's why they contacted us to look at a solution to detect it, and so that they can actually monitor through the whole barley value chain.
Yes. And I want to know the team. Of course, it's you and the team. Who are the team members, and how did you guys come together in this expertise?
So it's I'm from the Botany and Plant Biotechnology department, and so with my contacts and work that I already do for the cereal industry, SAB contacted me and said, well, could you solve this for us? And at that stage, Prof Charles Whitehead, who was the plant physiologist there, we immediately started looking at the problem. And the easiest to identify or to look at this is to look at the plant hormones that initiate germination. And so that's where we started. Once we solved the problem, we then contacted the then Resolution Circle that was hosted by the University of Johannesburg to look at how can we convert this from a very slightly complex test in the lab to something that we could actually sell to farmers or provide to farmers and the industry that they can test in the field. And so at that stage, it was Joseph Walker that was working for Resolution Circle. And through that, then we also contacted a company in Canada to assist us with this transformation. So in essence, the UJ team was from our department and then Resolution Circle. And then we also contracted a company from Canada to assist us with this.
Wow, amazing. Well, now we get to the actual solution, which is the method itself. So you and the UJ team came up with a method that is for rapid determining germination energy in harvested barley. Well, what are the advantages of this invention?
So currently, the test for early germination or germination's energy in the industry is there's two tests that they do. The first one is a plain old germination test. They would take 100 seeds, give it some water, and leave it for 48 hours and see, okay, 100 of them germinated, so it's 100% efficiency. But that 48 hours is where the problem comes in. That's not very fast to do that. And then the second test is to look at germination within the seed, look at the conversion of the storage starches into sugars, because malting, that's what it is. It's just to germinate the seed so that you end up with sugars that you can ferment into alcohol for beer or whiskey, if you're looking at some of the European countries. And so that test is not that slow, but it still needs to you need to have a lab set up to test for that. And so that's their big problem. They would like to have a test that they could actually test any part of the barley value chain. And so what our test entails is it is pretty much similar to a home COVID test. So previously, before COVID, we would tell people it's like a home pregnancy test. But more people know about COVID, I guess.
Yeah.
And so the COVID, this type of test is known as a lateral flow device test. Okay. And everybody knows what that looks like. But the problem that we have is these type of tests usually make use of an antibody, and antibodies can only test for proteins. So going back to COVID again, you would always, the spike protein is always in the news. And so that's the thing that they test for with something like this. But the plant hormone that we test for is not a protein. And so antibodies cannot test for it. The test that we started with is an indirect test. So it tests for something that binds to the specific plant hormone. And so what we did was, first off, we looked at, could we take that test and put it into something like a quick home test? And that did not prove successful. And so we explored some other aspects of this. And around the time that we did this, another type of molecule that was actually gaining a lot of traction for using them in these tests is known as DNA aptamers. And a DNA aptamer is basically just a sequence of DNA, and based on the repetition of the sequence in that, it folds up in a very specific manner. And then that can bind to any type of molecule. This could be a protein, it could be a plant hormone, it could be a piece of metal that breaks in a specific format, it can be a chemical. If it has a structure, then you can develop an aptamer that can recognize that. And so we went that route, and we found an aptamer that actually binds very specifically to the plant hormone. And we could translate that onto the test itself. And so currently where we're at is a test that we have in the lab. And so we've proven the concept there. And we've also looked at the extraction of the plant hormone, because previously it was quite complicated. It took a while. We had to make use of a sonicator, for instance, where now we've got a one-step buffer. You grind the seed up, you add the buffer, wait a couple of minutes, and then you can test immediately into that. So we've taken a test in the lab that takes 3-4 hours, and we've condensed it down to about a 30-minute test.
And how long did it take you, Prof, to come up with this method?
We solved the problem quite fast. It was about 6 months from being contacted and to say, okay, but this is, and we can show that if we test for this plant growth regulator, we can show germination has started or not. And then about 9.5 years from then to where we are now. Yeah. But we have to take into consideration COVID came in between, and we had to apply for additional funding, and so. But yeah, we're looking on it's about a 10-year journey by now. Yes.
Well, because it is quite worth it, Prof, because today it has won you guys the first prize in the biosciences category at the Gauteng Accelerator program.
Yeah, that was fantastic.
And how did that come about? And I'm also interested in terms of the competition that you guys had. Yes. Was it similar problem solving, or the inventions were different? How's the setup there?
Okay, so the GAP program, or the Gauteng Accelerator program competition, the competition is open year-round, but I think the applications close in September, if I remember correctly. That's when we did it. And so there was 1,200 applicants, and then they chose 30 of those. And there's 5 categories. So it's the health sciences, ICT or ICS, and so forth. And the one that we focused on was the biosciences. And so we ended up being one of those 30. And the process to get there was basically, once we were chosen, we had to take, we went to the innovation hub itself, which is located in Pretoria. And they instructed us a bit on how to develop a business plan, how to pitch to funders, and just how to sell your product, and think a bit differently about it. Because as a scientist, I see, okay, we've got a problem, we provide a solution, and then, okay, the solution is there, I'm done, it's somebody else's problem now. Yes. But to actually take it a bit further and to say, well, you now have a solution, but how are you going to get that into the market? And so that was a big focus of this, is not on the actual invention, but on what you have and how you want to take that further. And so there were quite a few One of the ones that was interesting is using plastic to fill potholes, because we've got a plastic problem and we have a pothole problem. So it's very diverse, the projects that featured. In the biological sciences, the majority of them focused on obviously on things related to biological aspects. So there were a couple of ones looking at traditional medicines and how you can apply them or get them into a marketable format. But ours is unique in the sense that it's a test developed for a specific industry currently. It is a big industry in South Africa and also in the world, because everybody loves the beer. But we ended up with a couple of things I think counted in our favor. As some of these were ideas that people had, and they were still in the working out the problem and solution phase, where we're already at the testing phase. We could show that it works.
Yes.
Our next step would be to show that it works on real-life samples from the field. So the proof of concept is there at least. And then another thing that really helped us, because we're associated with the university, we already patented this in several countries. And we targeted specifically countries that beer brewing is big in. So South Africa obviously is the first one that we targeted, but then we also looked at, say, the United States, Russia, and then the European Union. And some of these patents are already awarded and some of them are pending, but I'm pretty sure that we'll hear back from them soon as well.
Yes, indeed. And I just want to also find out the impact of this recognition to you and your team, and what is the future of this invention now?
The first thing is, I mean, the university has given us a lot of support and they believe in us, but you feel it's a bit venerated when another competition says, well, okay, this is really good. So it boosts our confidence a lot at this stage.
Yeah.
But the future is, so part of winning the competition is a monetary prize. Yes. And that will really be helpful for us to reach some of our next goals. But the big thing about this prize is the Innovation Hub has got an incubation program to incubate startup companies. And for instance, the global numbers for biotech companies is around 10% success rate. And so that is a big issue. And for the Innovation Hub, they would like to up that to something that's really worthwhile, in the sense that it contributes a lot more to the South African economy, for instance. And so that part of the competition will drive our next responses as well, or how we think about the project. Because there's two ways that we can actually market this, either to license off the IP to a company and then they run with it, or the other one is to look at starting a company from the UJ itself. And that makes a lot more sense for two reasons. If somebody licensed the IP to me and the sales aren't really great, then I'm not going to put a lot of my money and effort into marketing it a bit more. And then obviously the licensee or the license doesn't produce that much income or revenue for the university. Whereas with the additional investment into a startup company, they have access to a company that would like to succeed. And so for them, that would be a drive force. If the company succeeds, then UJ succeeds as well. So for us, that was one of the pathways that this competition definitely has opened up a lot more for future.
Indeed. And I also want to touch on the UJ itself, like we've been mentioning it. So what role is UJ playing? Because this is actually betterment of society. So what role is it playing? Of course, we are leading in technology and we continue to do that. So just want to understand the role of UJ in all this.
Yes, so the UJ is really committed, in my opinion, and from our faculty. So our department fits into the Faculty of Science. And if you look at a lot of the projects that's running in this faculty, it's linked to purifying water, providing clean water, which for South Africa, that's a huge thing. And even in the world, I'm first focusing on South Africa. But so there's a lot of products also on looking at forgotten foods, indigenous knowledge, and how can we convert that into foods that is ready for climate change. Yes. So within the faculty, there's a lot of scope. And like I say, it's not that the other faculties don't have that. It's just that I'm not so well informed on what's happening in, say, the Faculty of Engineering engineering and the built environment. But to my knowledge, there would be a lot there as well. And then for the university, that's a drive from top management and down, and there's support for that. But once you have an idea that is feasible to look at a patent and then to take it further, there's a lot of support from the Technology Transfer Office that the university has. And they started, I think they started that just around the same time we started with the project, because it's always been with the university, and they've assisted us a lot to get from, yes, we have something, and how can we develop this further for the societal impact that is needed.
Indeed, indeed. And of course, now back to the rapid screening of barley method, right? What is the long-term vision for it? How do you foresee it developing?
Yes, yeah. So the South African barley breeding or barley value chain is quite big. We produce about 600,000 tons of barley. But if we look at other markets, we're only ranked 22nd in the world for production. So for that, it means that the first of the things is we would like to focus on the South African barley, really penetrate into that, and then start looking at all of the countries where we've developed the patent, because not only do they have their own programs, but we also import barley from them, as we don't produce enough to satisfy our brewing capacity that we have. So that would be one of the strategies. And then obviously the other thing is we have some expertise in this field. So there's a lot of South African and African problems that international companies don't want to provide solutions for because it's either not a problem for them, or it's not worthwhile the investment, because they most probably won't make it back from sales. Whereas from a South African perspective, we can do stuff a bit cheaper, and we can solve problems that we have. And so that would be one of the focuses, is not just to focus on the barley industry, but to expand to relating industries, and then also to use similar technologies and develop solutions for, let's say, water, screening for water contamination and so forth. And so that would be one of the things that we focus on, is to take this as a stepping stone and to start generating a revenue that's constant, and then build from there, and to focus on other aspects within agriculture. And the company that we currently collaborate with to develop these rapid tests for us for research purposes at this stage, they have a lot of experience in health. And so partnering with them really assisted us to get from the lab to a test quite fast. But also we can tap into that, and we can start developing tests for them, because they not only just produce tests, they also convert ideas into a test. So that collaboration is also something that we could investigate further, to get not just a focus on agriculture, but into health, for instance.
Yes, indeed. And well, collaboration is indeed important. And that being said, what would be your message to aspiring innovators also that are also looking to give solutions to the problems in Africa, that are already also seeing the problems that people are encountering on the ground? What would be your message to them?
Passion, follow your passion, be passionate about it. If you keep on focusing on your passion, you will be successful. And it's not an easy road. I mean, we're fortunate we had the backing of the university, and I come from a research background, so I knew where to go to get additional funding. So if you're not, say, linked to a university, then it becomes even more difficult. And I can believe that sacrifices that an individual has to make, from having an idea to getting something in a company or commercialized, would be even a lot more than what we have. And our road wasn't easy. So for somebody like that, it would be really difficult. But if you're passionate about it and you follow your idea and you really market it to people, you will be successful. And look for opportunities like the GAP program. I have to say, I knew about the Innovation Hub because I was a university student at Tikkies when it started. But it never occurred to me that, there's a competition that we can apply for, until the TTO actually said, well, let's look at this, because it would be worthwhile to enter that competition with an eye on further development and commercialization. So look for opportunities. And in South Africa, there's loads of problems, and there must be loads of solutions to these problems. Funding is difficult, but if you hound people, at some
Yes.
stage you must get funding. So, but your passion, that's the most
That's
important.
the most important.
That is,
Wow, indeed. Well, Prof, we're almost at the end of our interview. Any closing remarks from your side?
Well, thank you for hosting us. And then I have to give a shout out to the Innovation Hub for not just hosting the competition, but actually awarding us this first prize. It was really quite a fantastic feeling because there was really good competition. So you always think that, I know I've got a good project, but when you see someone else's project, you think, that's a winning project right there. Yeah. So, but thank you very much to them for not just hosting this, but for the role that they play in innovation. And then obviously the TTO, or the Technology Transfer Office here at the UJ, we would not have been at this stage if it wasn't for all of the hard work they're doing behind the scenes, because yes, we won the award, but they basically contributed to that, because we wouldn't have been at the stage where we are if it wasn't for them. So definitely that is something. And thank you for hosting us and the project to speak about it.
Well, it is quite a big project. We wouldn't have missed it ourselves.
Thank you very much for that.
Yes, Prof. Well, there you have it, guys. Thank you for tuning into this episode. It was my conversation with Prof Eduard to talk more about their groundbreaking invention, which is rapid testing for pre-germination. My name is Bongani. See you in the next episode.
The University of Johannesburg, the future reimagined.